Before light, before sound, before form, there was only stillness. Not the stillness of emptiness, but the stillness of potential, the pregnant pause before the first inhale, and then a motion, a ripple through the void, a breath drawn by nothing into nothing. The universe exhaled, and from that single sigh, stars were born. Every galaxy is an echo of that breath. Every pulse, every heartbeat, every rise and fall of the chest is a continuation of that first motion. The universe breathes through you. You are not inside existence. Existence is breathing itself through your form. Long before you were a name, a story, a body, you were rhythm, a wave of being moving through infinite stillness. That first breath was not yours. It was the cosmos remembering itself. And even now, when you breathe in silence, you return to that origin, the stillness that never left. The first breath is also the first miracle. It is the moment awareness meets limitation. In that tiny gasp of air, existence learns fragility. It learns time. It learns separation. Each inhale is birth. Each exhale, a tiny rehearsal for death. To live is to oscillate between being and disappearing. But within that oscillation is the secret of eternity, because what breathes is not the body. The body is the instrument. The breath is the music. Listen closely. You can hear it, even in the quiet. The faint hum beneath thought, the rhythm older than identity. When you were a child, you breathed without knowing. When you are old, you will breathe without remembering. And in both, you are closest to truth. Life does not demand understanding. It only asks for participation. To breathe consciously is to say yes to existence. You are not surviving. You are collaborating with creation. Every being you have ever met is breathing the same ancient air, the same atoms of oxygen that once passed through a dinosaur's lungs, through a poet's chest, through the first flame of a newborn star, are now inside you. Breath is the oldest communion. It unites all who have ever lived in one invisible rhythm. When you exhale, you give the world part of yourself. When you inhale, you receive what the world once was. There is no separation. There is only circulation. Even death does not end the breath. It only changes the form of its motion. And when you close your eyes and follow that flow, the in and out, the coming and going, the eternal inhale and exhale, you begin to sense what the mystics knew, that the breath is not in you. You are in the breath of the cosmos, endlessly creating, endlessly dissolving, endlessly being. When you surrender to it, you stop being a person breathing. You become breathing itself. And in that moment, you remember the first breath never ended. It only became you. The universe does not begin with creation. It begins with awareness breathing itself into form. Every breath is a threshold between inhale and exhale, between heartbeat and stillness. We stand on the edge of disappearance. We live so casually, as if tomorrow were promised. But existence was never guaranteed. The distance between life and death is thinner than a whisper. One electric spark in the brain, one fragile rhythm in the chest. That's all that keeps the universe alive in you. And yet, this fragility is not tragedy. It is beauty in its purest form. A crystal is beautiful because it can shatter. A flower is sacred because it will wilt. A life is meaningful because it will end. Immortality would be unbearable. Only what fades can be loved. The awareness of impermanence is not despair, it is clarity. To see the fragility of life is to hold it gently, to walk softly, to speak kindly, because you know every moment could be the last, and that is what makes every moment infinite. We've been taught that strength is endurance, that to bend is to fail, that to break is to lose. But nature disagrees. The bamboo survives because it bends. The river carves mountains because it yields. The heart grows wise because it breaks open. The fragile are not weak. They are the ones through whom light can pass. Vulnerability is the door to wonder. It's what allows the world to reach you. A heart too guarded cannot feel joy, just as a sky without clouds cannot rain. Every wound is an opening. Every scar is a memory of transformation. We try so hard to protect ourselves from pain that we forget pain is what makes us human. The miracle of existence is not that we are unbreakable, but that we keep choosing to love in spite of the risk of loss. The universe itself took that risk. The moment it breathed, the moment it said, "Let there be being." Creation is the most fragile act imaginable. To exist at all is to be exposed, and yet that exposure is grace, because through it the infinite learns tenderness. Sit quietly for a moment. Listen. The world hums softly. The rustle of leaves, the hum of air, the rhythm of your lungs. This is the sound of existence balancing itself. Every breath is an act of trust. The body believing that the next inhale will come, and somehow it always does. You are kept alive not by effort, but by participation. The air enters, the air leaves, and in between, you are the miracle. To breathe consciously is to touch the pulse of the cosmos. It is to feel how intimately you belong here, not as a guest, but as part of the very mechanism of being. The fragility of life is not a flaw in design, it is the design, because through impermanence, the eternal becomes visible. The wave rises, it falls, and the ocean remains. The same is true for you. One day, your breath will stop, but the breath that moves through you never will. It will find another form, another rhythm, another sky to enter. You were never the breather, you were the breath all along. The miracle is not that life is brief, it's that it happens at all. Everything that exists casts a shadow, and that shadow is nothingness. We are taught to fear the void, to fill silence with noise, to cover emptiness with motion. But the void was here first. It is the backdrop upon which being paints itself. Without night, light has no contrast. Without silence, music has no meaning. Without absence, presence cannot be known. Being and nothing are lovers, not rivals. They meet in every breath you take. In the moment between inhale and exhale, the pause that feels like forever. In that stillness, you feel both alive and gone, awake and dissolved. That is the secret rhythm of existence. To appear, to vanish, to appear again. The wave rises from the sea, then falls back, never truly separate. We are the same, temporary shapes of the eternal ocean, performing the illusion of individuality. You are not born from nothing. You are born as nothing, momentarily wearing the mask of form. At the center of every paradox, Is truth too vast for reason to hold? To the logical mind, being and nothing cancel each other. To the awakened eye, they dance. The universe is not a static thing. It is a continuous appearing and dissolving, a symphony of emergence and return. Every moment is creation and annihilation combined. The Big Bang is happening right now, in the pulse of your blood, in the flicker of your thoughts, in the space between one perception and the next. When you exhale, the world ends. When you inhale, it begins again. The mystics understood this long before physics did. They called it shunyata, emptiness that is full, void that vibrates with infinite potential. To exist is to oscillate, between presence and absence, between the seen and the unseen. Nothingness is not nihilism. It is the womb of being. It is what allows something to appear at all. If existence were solid, nothing new could ever arise. The void is not your enemy. It is your origin. And one day, it will be your home again, not as loss, but as return. The philosopher sits beside a quiet lake. The water mirrors the sky, and in its reflection, the world looks both real and unreal. He throws a pebble. The ripples distort the image, form appearing within formlessness. Then, as the circles fade, the lake returns to stillness. Both states, the ripple and the calm, are part of the same being. And so it is with life. You are the ripple, and you are the stillness beneath. Being moves. Nothingness holds. Together they create the dance of the divine. When you stop resisting the void, you begin to feel its softness, the peace that comes not from understanding, but from belonging to something vast. The moment you accept nothingness, you stop disappearing. You begin to expand. You realize that death is not an end, but a silence waiting to sing again. There is no true separation between being and nothing, only rhythm. The same breath flowing in and out, the same consciousness blooming and folding, like the universe breathing through itself forever. There is a place the mind cannot enter, the space between one thought and the next. It is smaller than an instant, yet older than time. In that gap, there is no past to remember, no future to imagine, only being, pure and unshaped. You cannot seek it, because seeking itself is movement. You find it only when everything stops, when striving collapses, when even the question, "Who am I?" dissolves into listening. And then, in that stillness, the universe reveals itself, not as an object to know, but as awareness knowing itself. The galaxies spin, the stars explode, the atoms dance, and yet, beneath it all, nothing moves. Stillness is not the absence of motion. It is the axis around which motion turns. The mystics called it the unmoved mover, the point where eternity touches the present. You are that point. Always have been. Imagine the vastness of a mountain lake at dawn. Mist rises, birds stir, light begins to unfold. For a moment, the world holds its breath. That pause, that infinite suspension, is the still point made visible. Everything is happening, yet nothing is being done. The wind moves, but the air is calm. The body breathes, but no one is breathing. This is the mystery the sages spoke of. That stillness is not against movement. It is the source of it. Every sound rises out of silence and returns to it. Every word dissolves back into quiet. Every birth folds into death. And yet, silence remains untouched. You begin to understand that existence is not happening to you. It is happening as you. You are not a witness of life. You are life observing its own stillness. When you sit in complete awareness, you are not separate from the mountain, the mist, the dawn. You are the breath that moves them all. At the still point, time folds. Seconds lose their shape. Past and future blur into one continuous presence. You begin to feel that you've been here before, not as a memory, but as a recognition. This is the home you left when you were born, the peace that was waiting behind every question. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be named. Even the act of understanding feels unnecessary. You realize that life was never asking for meaning. It was asking for attention. The still point is not an escape from the world. It is the moment you become one with it. A falling leaf, a drop of rain, a flicker of dust in sunlight. Each is a perfect expression of eternity. You smile without reason. You breathe without effort. You exist without resistance. This is not enlightenment. It is intimacy, the union of awareness and being. In the quiet of now, and in that stillness, you hear it, the sound beneath all sound, the rhythm that began before time began. It whispers, not in words, but in presence. You were never moving. You were always here. Be still not to escape motion, but to see that motion was stillness in disguise. There is a door we have feared since childhood, death. We whisper its name, avert our eyes from it, and architect entire lifetimes to postpone its arrival. Yet every night, as sleep takes us, we rehearse a gentler iteration of that transition. The body releases, thought unravels, and we fall into unclaimed stillness. At dawn, we return. What if death is not erasure, but simply another cycle of return? What if life and death are not opposing vectors, but one continuous curvature, a single arc of entering and exiting, like the intelligence of breath? Sit quietly. Listen to your heartbeat. What exists between two pulses? A nameless silence, where the self does not perform as a narrative, but abides as pure presence. This is the deathless moment, an instant ungoverned by chronology, where existence no longer validates itself through motion. When you hold the hand of someone preparing to depart, you may observe something unexpected. The fear belongs to those who remain. The one leaving sometimes is simply becoming profoundly still. The door does not close. It merely changes the direction of the wind. Science asserts the body is matter and consciousness, an emergent property of neural architecture. Meditative lineages propose the opposite. The body is the instrument, awareness the musician. When the instrument breaks, does the music cease, or does the melody persist? Within a broader field of listening, recall a moment when everything inside you fell silent, perhaps standing before the night sea. Where did the I go? The body remained, yet its edges softened. Only knowing remained, absent a knower. The great death mirrors the small deaths we undergo daily. When we forgive, when we release, when we love until the self becomes translucent. Each time the I thins, light intensifies. The body falls like a dry leaf. Awareness does not fall. It simply stops misidentifying itself as the leaf. For the one who recognizes this, the terror of "I will end" transforms into a quiet, structural grace. You see yourself as the lake, and every reflection, even the face you call your own, as temporary weather on its surface, nothing to cling to, nothing that can be lost, only a long-standing misunderstanding dissolving as gently as removing a mask after a final performance. Time moves like a stratified river. Days flow, bodies evolve, stories continue their linear expansion. Yet within that current, there is always a still landing, a harbour untouched by coming or going. Sit there, and you see that every arising and dissolving occurs right on schedule, and nothing requires intervention. In this harbour, pain is not denied, but it relinquishes authority. Fear is not barred, but it no longer commands the system. Those who know this harbour operate differently. They love without urgency, release without hesitation, and treat action as a simple ceremonial gesture. They cry when the arc demands it, laugh when the cycle completes, and bow before what surpasses conceptual reach. Here, you look back at your journey, the fractures, the drought seasons, the questions you once believed would break you. You realize they were simply coordinates, guiding you toward this stillness. The deathless moment does not arrive from the future. It has always been present, nested quietly inside each breath, waiting for you to pause long enough to recognize it. You close your eyes. You stop naming what is here. A breeze passes. You smile, not from understanding, but from freedom from the need to understand. Life continues, like a hand extended into light. Finally realizing the light never departed from it, there is a silence so vast that even eternity listens to it. Out of that silence, the first breath still moves. We call it the Big Bang, the expansion, the beginning of time. But these are only human words for something that never stopped happening. Creation is not past. It is ongoing, moment by moment, breath by breath. Every inhale you take is the echo of that first divine inhale, the universe drawing itself into awareness. Every exhale is the offering back, the return to the formless. The breath of God is not a myth. It is the pulse of all existence, seen in galaxies expanding, in tides rising, in the lungs of a newborn. If you listen closely, you can feel it moving through you, the same rhythm that moves stars. When you breathe, you are not imitating the divine. You are participating in it. The breath of God moves through everything that is alive, and even through what we call dead, for matter itself inhales and exhales, through decay, transformation, rebirth. Nothing escapes this rhythm, not even God. Imagine the cosmos as a single living body. Galaxies are its lungs, stars its cells, atoms its pulse. The entire structure breathes, not metaphorically, but quite literally, through the endless cycles of energy and entropy. The inhale, creation, order, emergence. The exhale, dissolution, chaos, rest. Between them, balance. Between them, awareness. We call it time. We call it evolution. We call it destiny. But to the universe, it is simply breathing. And within that breath, every creature carries a spark of the same divine rhythm. The tree, turning carbon into oxygen, breathes for you. You, in turn, breathe for it. You are two halves of one lung. The more you notice this, the more reverence awakens in you, a quiet awe for the intelligence woven through motion. There is no random, there is only rhythm too large for our eyes to see. The breath of God is the music that needs no composer. Each of us is a note that sustains itself by being played, and when we stop trying to conduct, we finally hear the melody. Eventually, you come to realize that the breath of God is not only what animates life, it is what redeems death. When a star collapses, its matter does not vanish. It becomes the seed of new suns. When a body dies, its breath returns to the sky. The carbon, the warmth, the motion, all offered back to the source. The exhale is not the end. It is grace. It is the surrender that makes room for renewal. Perhaps this is what resurrection truly means. Not the return of the same form, but the continuation of the same breath through countless forms. The divine does not create once and rest. It creates forever by breathing through its own creations. To live consciously is to breathe with God, to feel the same rhythm that moves mountains and dust alike. And to die consciously is to exhale so completely that there is no you left to hold the next inhale. Then the breath continues, but now it breathes as wind, as starlight, as the silence between worlds. In that knowing, the distinction between mortal and divine disappears. For what is God, if not the awareness of the breath that never began and will never end? When you breathe, God becomes human. When you exhale, the human becomes God. Everything ends by returning. The wave falls back into the ocean. The breath you exhale becomes someone else's inhale. The star that dies seeds another dawn. We think of life as a line, a journey from birth to death, from beginning to conclusion. But the universe does not know straight lines. It knows only circles. Every ending curves quietly back into its own beginning. Every birth carries the memory of what came before. You are not traveling through time. You are spiraling through eternity. Each experience is a revolution, a turning of awareness upon itself, learning the same lesson under new skies. The ancient mystics called it samsara. Nietzsche called it the eternal recurrence. The physicist might call it entropy cycling through form. Different names, same truth. Existence is a rhythm, not a race. And in that rhythm, you are both the dancer and the dance, the breath and the breather, the silence and the song. You never truly leave. You only change the angle of return. Close your eyes. Imagine a mirror reflecting another mirror, an endless corridor of reflections stretching beyond sight. That is consciousness. That is eternity seeing itself through you. Each life, each moment, is one reflection within that infinite hallway. You are not separate from the whole. You are one of its ways of looking back at itself. The dreamer dreams the world, and the world dreams the dreamer. This is not philosophy. It is simple observation. You cannot find a beginning to awareness, nor an end to it. Every attempt to define its borders only leads you deeper inside its center, a center that is everywhere, a circumference that is nowhere. What you call your life is a single breath in an infinite respiration. The inhale was creation. The exhale will be dissolution. But the breathing, the eternal return of awareness, never stops. The cosmos is not repeating itself. It is rediscovering itself in infinite variations of the same truth, that there is no outside to what is. At last, the philosopher finds himself standing where he began, but now he sees it differently. The first breath never ended. The stillness was never broken. The journey was never about finding truth. It was about remembering what was never lost. He looks at the world, the wind moving through trees, the laughter of children, the shimmer of light on water, and realizes this is not repetition. This is resurrection. Every morning the sun rises as if for the first time. Every life is creation rediscovering wonder. He inhales. The stars breathe with him. He exhales. Galaxies drift outward. The rhythm of existence continues. The eternal pulse between form and formlessness. The endless return of awareness into itself. Nothing new, yet everything renewed. The philosopher smiles, because he finally understands. The end was never a conclusion, only a curvature of the infinite. The dreamer awakens, only to find that awakening is another dream, and in that endless return there is peace, not because the circle stops, but because it never needed to. The first breath was never taken. It has been breathing forever, calling itself the universe, and sometimes you